time for the doubt, they counting me out, I'm getting it in, yeah. No time for no loss, I'm paying the cost, I'm in it to win, yeah. Refuse, mine, it can't be diffused. If you ain't thinking the same, then we playing by different rules. You can't see the vision, we living at different views. Until we complete the mission, keep getting up, never snooze. I walked a mile in my shoes, had the mind of a fool, chasing diamonds and jewels. Trust me, I was confused. Started minding my business and used my mind as a tool. Ended up finding my purpose and found the time to get to it. They told me I couldn't do it. They told me I couldn't make it. They sold it, could never break it. I sadly mistaken. I need a piece of the pie. I want it so bad I can taste it. They told me like told me, keep on running. Toes they gon' take them. Refuse to lose, built to win. Applied myself, I felt it in. No time for the doubt, they counting me out, I'm getting it in, yeah. No time for no loss, I pay for the cost, I'm winning to win, yeah. Refuse to lose, I'm built to win. Applied myself.
Hello and welcome back to CTC. It's your gracious host, Carl, with Carl Talking College. Today we are going to do the SEC. As you can see, I am solo dolo today. First episode that I'm solo is it's only right for the best conference in college football. So I'm excited to give y'all my little preview for this 2023 season. We're going to get into it. We're going to start with that the defending SEC champ is also the defending national champ, the Georgia Bulldogs. Georgia actually won the Natty back-to-back seasons. Shout out to them. Kirby Smart got 2 championships. They're not, however, back-to-back defending champs. Alabama won 2 years ago, and then they played Georgia in the championship 2 years ago and lost. Some say due to injury. I am being the sum. But let's get into it. The SEC split into East and West. SEC East, where my team resides. South Carolina, Florida, Kentucky, Vandy, Mizzou, Tennessee, and I think I got it right. Georgia, South Carolina, Kentucky, Mizzou, Florida, Tennessee, Vandy. And SEC West, we have Texas A&M, Bama, Auburn, Arkansas, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, and I'm missing LSU. Okay? LSU actually made it to the SEC championship game last year and a thriller of a game against Alabama. Won in overtime. Alabama couldn't stop Jaden Daniels in that offense. Jaden Daniels goes for 2, I believe, and wins the game. So shout out to them last year, first year under Brian Kelly. And Jaden Daniels will, as we will discuss, will return. So, like I said, we're going to go into the best conference in college football, in my opinion. And we're going to start with the Alabama Crimson Tide. 10-2 last year, 6-2 in conference play. Won the Sugar Bowl in convincing fashion against K-State. They lost Bryce Young to the NFL, number 1 overall pick. Lost Jahmyr Gibbs to the Lions. Shout out Jahmyr. Lost Brian Branch, also to the Lions. They lost Henry To'oTo'o, linebacker, to the Houston Texans. Jermaine Burton returns, which I'm so iffy on Jermaine Burton. Jermaine Burton was at Georgia, barely produced at Georgia, comes to Bama, and again, barely produces at Bama. Hopefully he can make this big leap, especially because we don't know who's at Alabama quarterback this year. Nick Saban hasn't announced a starter, so that's still up for debate. We don't know really what the Alabama quarterback is going to look like, so he's going to need his guys to step up. Alabama also had 3 receivers jump into the transfer portal this year, well, from the ending of last year to this year, 3 out of their 6. So hopefully Bama can have something up their sleeve. They get Tyler Buckner, transfer from Notre Dame, quarterback. Not really too high on him. Excuse me. I just got done eating, so excuse the little indigestion. I'm sorry about that. Will Anderson lost to the Houston Texans as well. Number 3 or 2. I think he went 3rd in the draft. I'm sorry if I'm wrong. But Kool-Aid McKinstry returns. They lose Eli Ricks. So in my opinion, Eli Ricks went from being the highest rated cornerback transfer the season before to he had a down year. Mekhi Gardner with LSU had a better year stepping up for Eli Ricks. So I hope Eli Ricks does well. I know I wanted him coming in when he was a transfer. Like I said, he was very highly recruited when he left LSU, but he had a down year last year. And so they have 9 starters returning, 4 on offense, 5 on defense, 19th in passing offense last year. And that was with Bryce Young having his second leading receiver being Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, again, both of those players are gone. So if they can even do that high is yet to be determined. But one thing about me, I know about Alabama, Nick Saban doesn't he reloads. He doesn't have down seasons. He reloads. So I'm pretty sure he'll have a guy come in and fill both of those spots. 4th in scoring offense, 9th in scoring defense, 11th in total offense, 13th in total defense, tied 16th in sacks. Again, Nick Saban is going to have a stout defense no matter what. So I believe in Nick Saban. He also brings in the best recruiting class. So no shots at Dion this year. No shots at all. No shots. So we're going to jump into the schedule. Middle Tennessee is the first game of the season. That's a W. This ain't no Miami University situation here. Shout out to Dave and Kev. I got to get my shot off. And Ace had to get my shot off. Then we go from Middle Tennessee to the, well, not for them, but to the rematch. Alabama, Texas, this time in Alabama, in Tuscaloosa. Give me Alabama again. Then we go from Texas to South Florida in the heat in South Florida, but give me Alabama. From Alabama, we go to Ole Miss. And these be games, but give me Alabama. I understand we don't know the starting quarterback. We don't know much about Bama's offense. But by week 4, Bama should be on a roll. Everything should be in place. Nick Saban should have that locomotive running. Give me Ole Miss. We go to at Mississippi State where they'll play Will Rogers. And I might sound crazy to some, but I'm not real high on Will Rogers. I understand Will Rogers has great arm talent. Do not get me wrong there. I just feel like that Alabama can get to Will Rogers and have him rattled. From Mississippi State, we go to Texas A&M. Give me Alabama again. From Texas A&M, we go to Arkansas. Give me Alabama again. From Arkansas, we go to Tennessee. Give me Alabama again. But this is going to be another great game last year. This is the rematch for them. They lost last year on a controversial play. So give me Alabama. From Tennessee, we go to LSU. Another huge loss for Bama last year. Their only other loss. And I think they right that wrong this year. Give me Bama at home. From Bama, we go to at Kentucky. Y'all know how I feel about Devin Leary in Kentucky. Give me Alabama. And from Kentucky, we end the season with Chattanooga. I'm sorry. Chattanooga is next. They don't. And how am I forgetting about the Iron Bowl? Give me the W against Chattanooga to end the season at Auburn in the Iron Bowl rivalry game. We saw 2 years ago a hard-fought Iron Bowl. Bryce Young, late game heroics. TJ Finley tried his best. I think that's who it was. TJ Finley, quarterback from Auburn at the time, was hurt, fighting, trying to win that game for Auburn. Didn't have enough. Give me Alabama. So that had me having Alabama going 12-0, 8-0 in conference play. Good enough to be first in the SEC West and to go to the SEC championship game. We go from Bama to Arkansas. Arkansas, 6-6 last year, 3-5 in conference play. Won the Liberty Bowl versus Kansas. And like I said, one of the best bowl games last year. You have the Ohio State bowl game with Georgia, which was a classic. This one was a classic too. KJ Jefferson returns, huge for Arkansas. Raheem Sanders returns, huge for Arkansas. One of the best backs in the country this year. You got guys in the Big Ten ahead of him, but he's one of the best backs for sure. Might top 5, top 10 in that realm. Matt Landers, gone to the NFL. Drew Sanders, one of my favorite linebackers in the country last year, gone to the NFL. Dwight McGlothern returns, cornerback. Tyrone Bolden transfers in from Bowling Green State. He was a wide receiver in the MAC that had 7 touchdowns last year, looking to provide some offense to help KJ Jefferson in his passing attack. Jaden Hazelwood is now gone to the NFL. So he's looking to replace Jaden Hazelwood. They had the 27th overall recruiting class, returned 8 starters, 4 on offense, 4 on defense. They were 8th in sacks last year, so that's really good. 124th, however, in total defense. That back end, if that D line couldn't get to your quarterback, not even if they didn't, you know what I'm saying? You know how there's coverage sacks and there's like sacks, like, oh, okay, the defense made them hold the ball 3-4 seconds and no one was open. No, that defense, that D line did not get to that quarterback within 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Arkansas back end was cooked. So 101st in scoring defense, 35th in scoring offense, 15th in total offense, 7th in rushing offense. That's a lot to do with Raheem Sanders and KJ Jefferson running ability. So we'll hop into the schedule. They play Western Carolina first week, W. Kent State, W. BYU, W. And a rematch, by the way. LSU, I have it's at LSU. I have it as an L. Texas A&M, I have it as a W. That offense, we got to see about that Texas A&M offense. Ole Miss, I have as an L. Alabama, as I previously stated, L. Mississippi State, I have as an L. I think Will Rogers can burn them up. Florida, I have as an L. I just think that Billy Napier will be able to outcoach Arkansas's head coach. I'm blanking on his name at the time, so I'm sorry about that. Auburn is a W. FIU is a W. And Drinkowitz and Mizzou is a W. Mizzou, you'll see later. I'm not high on Mizzou this year. From Arkansas, we go to Auburn. Auburn 5-7 last year, 2-6. 2-6 in conference play, leading them to hire new coach Hugh Freeze, who has SEC ties, being the former coach of Ole Miss. They lost arguably their best player, Tank Bigsby, to the NFL. Peyton Thorne transfers in from MSU, and just, good luck, Peyton Thorne. I was iffy on Peyton Thorne. I feel like Peyton Thorne is hit or miss. Sometimes he be tripping, but other games he be balling. So good luck at Auburn. Well wishes, all of the above. Brian Beatty transfers in from USF, running back who had 1,186 yards, 8 touchdowns. Jair Shorter transfers in from North Texas, a wide receiver in Conference USA who had 11 touchdowns. They lost Derek Hall, edge rusher, to the NFL. They returned 11 starters, period, 3 on offense, 8 on defense. 18th rushing attack, 119th passing offense, 87th scoring offense, 98th in scoring defense, 79th in total defense. So not quite your old school Auburn. 19th overall recruiting class, which isn't bad for Auburn, but isn't great for Auburn, especially being in Alabama. You know what I'm saying? Got the Iron Bowl rivalry. Should be able to recruit guys to give them that hope that, hey, we can beat Bama if you come here. But 19th isn't that bad. They start with UMass. I have a W. Cal, I have as a W. Samford, W. Texas A&M, I have as a loss. I think that's going to be a defensive struggle. I don't know. Maybe Texas A&M can eke out a little bit more plays. Like I said, Tank Bigsby's gone, so we got to see who's going to be Auburn's best player on offense. I think Texas A&M can eke out a W in a defensive fight. We go to Georgia, L. LSU, L at LSU. Even though last year's game against LSU, Harold Perkins balled out for LSU on defense, and that game was actually close, like really close. LSU really couldn't get nothing going on offense, so. But it's in LSU. That game was in Arkansas. This game is in LSU. Give me LSU. Ole Miss, I have as an L. Mississippi State, I have as a W. Vandy, I have as a W. I can explain the Mississippi State W because I know you might be asking. Will Rogers, again, can burn up this Auburn defense. But I feel like Auburn, after losing, in my opinion, 4 straight games, has a tough week of practice, locks in. We can't lose 5 straight. We got to be bowl eligible. Hugh Freeze gets them together, gets an offensive game plan going, and I think they do. In Lafayette, get the W. Then we go against Vandy. At Vandy, give me a W. Then we have, as we mentioned, against Arkansas, I have as an L. New Mexico State, I have as a W. And Alabama, I have as an L in the Iron Bowl. So I have Arkansas going 6-6, making them bowl eligible. 2-6 in conference play. From Auburn, we go to Florida. And I know some Florida fans, y'all might not have liked the news that came out yesterday or 2 days ago, but it was the inevitable, to be honest. Florida went 6-6, 3-5 in conference play. Lost the Las Vegas Bowl to Oregon State, and boy, was it bad. They lost Anthony Richardson to the NFL. Montrell Johnson returns along with Trevor Etienne, so both their leading rushers return. Ricky Pearsall returns, leading receiver. Xavier Henderson transfers to Cincinnati. Lost Ventrell Miller at linebacker. Again, I love Ventrell Miller at linebacker. Lost Rashad Torrance to the NFL. Graham Hurts transfers in from Wisconsin, and that was the news. Graham Hurts is now your starting quarterback for this season. I am so low on Graham Hurts. I think Graham Hurts actually held Wisconsin back last year, but I'm high on Billy Napier. This is his second year at Florida. I think he's a great coach, great recruiter. I think he can help Graham Hurts maybe elevate to help Florida a little bit, but I don't know how much he can get out of Graham Hurts. That's why we play the game. We're gonna wait and see, but I'm not high on Graham Hurts at all. They returned 10 starters, 6 on offense, 4 on defense. The 97th total defense, 87th scoring defense, 24th rushing offense. Again, due to Anthony Richardson and the 2 leading rushers at Florida. You have the 37th total offense and 57th scoring offense. 12th overall recruiting class, which if you're at Florida, you want to see it go into the top 10. But 12 is not too shabby at all. Schedule, get the rematch where they won and shocked me against Utah, but this time it's in Utah. Have it as an L. Then they play McNeese State, have it as a W. Tennessee as an L. Charlotte as a W. Kentucky, W. Vandy, W. South Carolina, my boys got destroyed last year in the swamp. But this ain't in the swamp this year, and Spencer Rattler caught on towards the end of the year last year. I'll get into that a little bit later. Give me a W for the South Carolina Gamecocks at home against Florida. I have it as an L for Florida. Georgia as an L. Arkansas as a W. LSU as an L. Mizzou as a W. And to end it at Florida State as an L. Having them at 6-6, 4-4 in conference play. Same overall record. Winning one more conference game. That one conference game being Vandy, they lost last year. I'm still shocked they lost to Vandy last year. But yeah, we move on to the defending SEC champs, the defending national champs, Georgia Bulldogs. And I normally don't add the bowl records to the finishing record, but I had to because they won a natty. I felt it was only right that they get special treatment. 15-0 last year, 8-0 in conference play. Again, national champs back-to-back. Will someone dethrone Georgia this year? Lost Stetson Bennett to the NFL. And I want to talk on Stetson Bennett a little bit. A lot of people don't give Stetson Bennett the credit, mostly because he's like 3 years younger than me, and I'm 28. So I can kind of get with y'all on that. Some people didn't believe he was good enough to lead Georgia to a championship. Some people thought he got carried. I disagree with all sentiments. I feel like Stetson Bennett, while not having the strongest arm, he doesn't have the greatest arm, though. It's pretty accurate. He can run an offense. He's a smart decision maker. He can use his legs when called upon. He has moxie. He's a pretty good quarterback, and I think he's going to have a pretty good career in the NFL as a backup. I think he's going to be a solid backup his entire career, like a Chase Daniels or Chad Henne, who's still in the league. And y'all know I'm not shouting out this school, but he's still in the league on the Chiefs. So I feel like that's his projection. A lot of people, I guess, because he went to Georgia, wanted him to be like a Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. No, he's not them. He's a walk-on quarterback who worked his butt off to get to where he is now. And shout out to Stetson Bennett. They lost Nolan Smith to the NFL, freakish athlete on the edge. Jalen Carter to the NFL, freakish athlete in the middle of that defense. Lost Keely Ringo to the NFL, speedster corner. Rava Thomas transfers in from Mississippi State, who had 626 receiving yards and led the team in touchdowns with 7. Dominic Lovett transfers in from Mizzou, who I feel like was Mizzou's best receiver. 846 yards, 3 touchdowns. Brock Bowers is the key. He has to return. He was only a sophomore last year. The best tight end in the country. One of the best receiving threats, besides the obvious, besides Mark Harris and all those guys. But he's up there for the receiving threat. As a tight, I've seen them run a tight end in the round of Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers returns, which is, like I said, a huge weapon. Lose Kenny McIntosh to the NFL. Return 13 starters, 6 on offense, 7 on defense. But Kirby Smart reloads, having the second overall recruiting class right behind Bama, reloads. 5th in total offense, 10th in total defense, 5th in scoring offense, 5th in scoring defense, 2nd and 3rd down conversion defense, 15th in passing offense. Georgia was just lights out, head and shoulders lights out of a football team in the best conference. Now, they might be on the weaker side of the best conference in football, but it doesn't matter. They absolutely destroyed LSU in that in the championship game. We hop into the schedule where they play UT Martin, W. Ball State, W. My boys got destroyed last year in Athens. This game is in Bryce Williams Stadium, but it don't matter. They're going to beat us. W for Georgia. UAB, W. At Auburn, W. Kentucky, W. At Florida, W. Oh, wait, hold on. My bad. Missed one. Vandy, W. Florida, W. The toughest game last year, funny enough, was Mizzou being on almost upsetting Georgia last year. The final score was 26-22 Georgia, and they had to pull off some later game heroics to win that game. But I don't think that happens this year. Eli Drinkwitz had his team motivated. I don't think it matters this year. Georgia's not going to sleep on them again. W. Ole Miss, W. Tennessee. Now, this is what I will say. Have it as a W. But I have it as a toss-up game. It all depends on Joe Milton. If Georgia can get to Joe Milton and them inaccuracies can show up, Georgia wins this hands down. Now, if Joe Milton is comfortable in that pocket, he's out there slanging the ball. We know Joe Milton has the best arm in the country. The strongest arm in the country. We know this. He's sitting back there comfortably. Oh, man, it can get ugly for Georgia. And we finished the year when, again, Georgia Tech might not want to play this game. At Georgia Tech, W. Having Georgia 12-0, 8-0 in conference play, and number 1 in the SEC East again for the 3rd straight year to go to their 3rd straight SEC championship game. Move on from Georgia to Kentucky. Kentucky went 7-5 last year, 3-5 in conference play. Lost the Music City Bowl to Iowa. I think they got shut out 21-0. But yeah, Will Levis was the number 1 overall pick at one point, fellas. Anyway, I don't even think Will Levis played, to be honest. So let me not. I can't remember, but let me not do that. But speaking of, they lost Will Levis to the NFL. Lost Chris Rodriguez to the NFL. He's on the Commanders now. And I hope he makes the team. I love Chris Rodriguez. Not a fast running back, but a power back. He's going to run. Between the tackles is where he roams at. So hopefully he can make the Commanders. Jordan Dingle returns. Lose DeAndre Square to the NFL, which I really like DeAndre Square a lot. Lost Jordan Wright. I think they just lost him to graduation. I was looking, didn't see anything about the NFL. Ray Davis, who was Vandy's running back last year, transfers in. So they get an SEC running back. 1,042 yards, 5 touchdowns. So they're hoping he can replace Chris Rodriguez. Now they do get a very Will Levis-esque transfer in Devin Leary. Teddy. So Devin Leary wasn't the greatest at North Carolina State. The offense really wasn't the greatest at North Carolina State. Like I said, I see Will Levis in, bro, to be honest with y'all. He just doesn't move the needle for me. Hopefully he can change that this year. So we go into, they had 14 returning starters, 8 on offense, 6 on defense, 45th passing offense, 108th rushing offense, 112th scoring offense, 13th scoring defense, 12th total defense. So they had a great defense, lackluster offense. They had the 30th overall recruiting class scheduled this year. Ball State, they don't have Carson Steele no more running back. W for Kentucky. Eastern Kentucky, W. Akron, Akron spreads the ball a lot, like to throw the ball a lot, but plays no defense. W. At Vandy, again, one of Vandy's wins last year was Kentucky in Florida. Crazy for Vandy, but I don't have it this year. Kentucky takes the W. Florida against Florida. I have them losing this game. I think they previously beat Florida the last 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. Let's look that up real quick. But I know Kentucky has had Florida's number for a while, but I think Florida, Billy Napier changes that this year. Again, I don't like the quarterback situation in Kentucky. I understand they always have a great defense. That's why the past 2 bowl games against Iowa has been a defensive football fans. They loved it. It's their fantasy, Kentucky, Iowa. Yep, Kentucky won last year, and I'm pretty sure they won the previous year. So, with that being said, I think Florida changes that this year. Georgia, L. Give me a second, Teddy. I'm gonna get to that. Mizzou, W. Tennessee, L. Mississippi State, L. I don't think they're going to be able to score enough. Yeah, that defense can get to Will Rogers, but they got to put up points too. And I think Devin Leary might maybe put up change for Mississippi State that game. Bama, L. South Carolina, my boys struggle with Kentucky. Give me a put L on this paper. I might have to change that. I'm gonna go W. No. I'm gonna go. I'm read it wrong. My fault. I have South Carolina winning, so I have an L for Kentucky. Louisville has a W, making them 6-6, 2-6 in conference play, making them bowl eligible. Yeah, I read it wrong, Joe. I'm like, hold on, I thought I had South Carolina winning. I read it wrong. That's on me. So Kentucky 6-6, 2-6 in conference play. We going to LSU, the SEC West defending champs, ran by my boy Jaden Daniels, which I gotta go on my soapbox a little bit. Jaden Daniels had a phenomenal freshman year at Arizona State. I mean, spectacular, but hadn't done much with it since. Now, you can say part of that is due to him being at Arizona State. We find out the stuff that happens, all of the scandal with Marvin Lewis and things of that nature. But then he goes to LSU, and he's good on the ground. Do not get me wrong, but passing, he was so hit or miss. I get you can point to the last second drive to LSU, the game against Bama, but you can also point to games like Arkansas. So I need to see it this year. I can't keep living off that freshman year. Jaden Daniels, I want you to be great, but I need you to prove it more than once. Please. With that being said, LSU went 9-4, 6-2 last year, won the Citrus Bowl versus Purdue badly. I think the score was like 63-7. Like I said, Jaden Daniels returns. Malik Neighbors returns, who might, again, is up there for one of the best receivers in college this year. Keyshawn Boutte, who had a very disappointing season last year, is now gone to the NFL. Mason Taylor, the tight end, returns, who I'm really high on. Harold Perkins is a sophomore. That's a defensive guy to really look out for next year or this coming season. They lost Jay Ward to the NFL. Mekhi Garner, as I brought up earlier, to the NFL. Logan Diggs transfers in at running back from Notre Dame, 820 yards and 4 touchdowns. Walker Howard transfers in he transfers to Ole Miss, so he's gone. Brian Kelly was doing all that dancing. They say he was switching up his accents to get Walker Howard. He bounced after a year, so Brian Kelly, after this, you got to do some recruiting, go to the drawing board. Maybe he likes somebody over Walker Howard. Maybe he didn't like what he saw in these camps. Maybe that's why he transferred. I don't know. But we go on to, they returned 13 starters, 8 on offense, 5 on defense, 41st total defense, 28th in total offense, 31st in scoring defense, 24th in scoring offense, 29th in passing offense, 41st in rushing offense, 5th overall recruiting class. So great recruiting class by Brian Kelly. We hop into the schedule where they start the season against Florida State in a rematch. Oh, man. Barn burner of a game last year. Block extra point after Jaden Daniels leads them down the field for the potential game-tying touchdown. It was heartbreak for LSU, and I think it's heartbreak for LSU again. Give me Florida State. Then they go to Grambling, which is a W. Mississippi State, W. Arkansas, W. Ole Miss, I have as an L. Mizzou, W. Auburn, W. Army, W. Even though they got to defend that read option, you got to stay disciplined in that game. Bama, L. Florida, W. Georgia State, W. And Texas A&M to finish the season as a W, making them 9-3, 6-2 in conference play. We move on to Mississippi State, who was 8-4 last year overall, 4-4 in conference play. So again, that's why I'm kind of, and that's not the reason why I'm iffy on Will Rogers, but that's why I won't say that Mississippi State with Will Rogers is to be reckoned with. So won the Rely Quest Bowl against Illinois in a defensive fight. That featured 2 first-round corners with Emmanuel Forbes for Texas A&M and my guy Devon Weatherspoon for Illinois. That was my favorite corner last year in the country, favorite corner in the draft. So can't wait. I can't wait to see what Mississippi State does. I kind of want to see what Will Rogers does because I understand I kill Will Rogers, but I see the talent in Will Rogers. So if I can see it more in game, I'm actually excited for Will Rogers. I know I killed him last year for sure. Went crazy on Will Rogers. I know what he can be, and he doesn't show. Like I think the LSU game, he threw like key picks, like it was key moments. Will Rogers folded, I think. So it just remains to see. So Will Rogers returns. They lose Caleb Duckling, who had 8 touchdowns last year. So my bad. Caleb Ducking led with 8. Rabbi Thomas had 7. He was 1 less. So apologies on that. Rabbi Thomas transferred to Georgia, like previously stated. Emmanuel Forbes to the Commanders. Jet Johnson returns at linebacker. Mike Wright, quarterback, transfers in from Vandy, which is Will Rogers' team. So maybe they redshirt him. Kevon Lee transfers in from Penn State, a running back. They lost Cam Young to the NFL. Returned 11 starters, 7 offense, 4 on defense, 10th in passing offense, 43rd in scoring offense, 62nd in total offense, tied 23rd in takeaways, mainly due to Emmanuel Forbes, 42nd passing defense, 40th scoring defense, 34th recruiting class, which is SEC, so it's not great. Schedule, they start with Southeastern Louisiana, W. Arizona, W. That's probably going to – Mississippi State might put up 500 passing yards in that game. LSU, L. At South Carolina, again, L. Alabama, L. Western Michigan, W. At Arkansas, W. Auburn is an L. Kentucky is a W. Texas A&M, I have as an L. Southern Mississippi, W. And the Egg Bowl versus Ole Miss, I have as an L, making Mississippi State 6-6, 2-6 in conference play. Taking a step back from last year, but Will Rogers can prove me wrong, and I'm hoping he does prove me wrong because, again, he's super talented. We go from Mississippi State to Mizzou. Again, very low on Mizzou, as you will see. Mizzou, Brady Cook returns as quarterback, I believe. Jake Garcia transfers in, another quarterback from the U. Theo Weiss transfers in from Oklahoma. He had 10 career touchdowns. Cody Schrader returns. Lost Isaiah McGuire to the NFL. Again, Dominic Levet transfers to Georgia. They returned 14 starters, 6 on offense, 8 on defense. Oh, excuse me. I forgot. Mizzou didn't make a bowl game last year. They lost the Gasparilla Bowl to Wake Forest and Sam Hartman, which he will not be there next year. So I don't know them. I have them not making a bowl. 56 scoring defense, 86 scoring offense, 34th total defense, 82nd total offense. They tied 27th, however, in sacks. So D-line, pretty good there. But that offense was terrible last year. They start with South Dakota, not South Dakota State, but South Dakota. I have that as a W. Middle Tennessee, I have as a W. Kansas State, I have as a bad L. Memphis, I have it as a W. But if Memphis offense can be as explosive as it has in years past, it's a toss-up. Memphis can very well take that game. Memphis is a very good American Athletic Conference team. Like I said, they've had great offenses in the past. Mizzou does not have a good offense. So I feel like if Memphis can find things they like in that game, they can definitely beat Mizzou. I just give it to Mizzou right now because they're an SEC team, and although I'm low on the SEC team, which is Mizzou, they're still in the SEC, so still the best conference in college football. So I'm gonna give them the W off that, but I can very much well see the L. Then this is what I'll do. Vandy, LSU, Kentucky, South Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, Arkansas, all L's in my opinion, making them 3-9, question mark, maybe 2-10, and 0-8 in conference play. Eli Drinkowitz may or may not be on the hot seat. I don't know, but I think he has a bad year, and it's not really his fault. From Mizzou, we go to Ole Miss. Ole Miss, 8-4 last year, 4-4 in conference play. Lane Kiffin is a great offensive mind in college football, but Lane Kiffin has not decided to name the starting quarterback at Ole Miss. There's a competition between Jackson Dart, who had a down year last year. I was high on him. I liked him at USC, Southern California, Had a iffy year. I won't say down, but he had an iffy year at Ole Miss. Not going to lie, because I like you. Definitely had an iffy year at Ole Miss last year. They, again, bring in Walker Howard, and they also bring in Spencer Sanders, who I'm not very high on, but he's a dual threat guy that will work into Lane Kiffin's favor. They also bring back Quinshon Judkins, again, dog of a running back. Last year was his freshman year. He comes back as a sophomore. Judkins is one of the best. I've said it before. Say it again. One of the best running backs in college football. He might be the best college. I think he's the best running back in the SEC for sure. I will say he's the best. He might be a top 5 running back in the country this year. They lost Jonathan Mingo to the NFL. They lost Malik Heath to the NFL. And they got one of my favorite transfer receivers. He played with Frank Harris at UTSA. Zachary Franklin. He transfers in, obviously, from UTSA, University of Texas San Antonio. One of the most explosive offenses last year. Probably the most explosive offense in Conference USA last year. So that should be really good for Lane Kiffin. They also have Trey Harris transfer in from Louisiana Tech, but bad handwriting, so excuse me. I believe that's supposed to be at 8. It's either 835 or 935 yards. I'm sorry, I have bad handwriting. And he had 10 touchdowns last year. They lost to Tavius Robinson to the NFL. They returned 13 starters, 8 on offense, 5 on defense. Tied 27th in sacks, 59th in passing offense, 3rd in rushing offense. Again, Judkins. 29th in scoring offense, 8th in total offense, and 75th in total defense. So, Ole Miss definitely has to shore up that defense. They have the 17th overall recruiting class, so shout out to them. Not bad. Top 20. I mean, maybe you want to see them in the top 15, but not bad. Schedule. They play Mercer to start the season. W at a tough Tulane team. I love Michael Pratt. Tulane defense was very stout last year. Probably one of the best group of 5 defenses right there with Troy. But give me the W for Ole Miss. SEC offense, I think that's a little bit too much. Georgia Tech, W. At Alabama is an L. Versus LSU, I have as a W. Arkansas is a W. Auburn is a W. Vandy, W. Texas A&M, not enough offense, W. Georgia is an L. UL Monroe as a W. And the Egg Bowl again as a W. Having Ole Miss 10-2, 6-2 in conference play. Again, I'm waiting for Ole Miss to announce a starter. I'm actually really anxious to see who he's going to name as a starter, seeing that the season. Week 0 is 2 weeks away, but Ole Miss doesn't play until week 1, which is 3 weeks away. So still some time left for him to make a decision, and I can't wait to see it. We go from Ole Miss to South Carolina. My boys, 8-4 last year. Shane Beamer coming back for his 3rd year, I believe. Yes, 3rd year Shane Beamer. The first year won the Duke's Mayo Bowl again versus North Carolina. Last year lost the Gator Bowl and a surprisingly to me, offensive firework game to Notre Dame, 45-38. So sucks because I'm not a Notre Dame fan at all, but I seen it coming. They went 4-4 in conference play last year. Spencer Rattler returns, like I said earlier. Started off slow. especially that Georgia game, but he started to pick it up towards the end of the year. I'm excited to see what Spencer Rattler does this year. I can't wait. Shane Beamer, another year with Shane Beamer. I'm just excited for that. Antoine Wells, a receiver, returns. They did lose Cam Smith and Darius Rush at cornerback last year, but as you can see, we lost JC and then had Cam Smith and Darius Rush. So I think we'll reload at cornerback. I'm not too worried there. Marshawn Lloyd transferred to Southern California, which sucks, but hey, look, congrats to him. Success to you. I hope y'all win the Pac-12 championship, like I said, like I have y'all. So well wishes there. We lost Josh Van to the NFL. Nick, and again, bad handwriting plus I can't really pronounce his name when I try. Emmanuel returns. Trey Knox transfers in from Arkansas, tight end who had 5 touchdowns last year for Arkansas. So he should be real huge in our offense. We returned 10 starters, 6 on offense, 4 on defense, 89th in total defense, 34th in passing defense, 117th in rushing defense. So that was our problem last year. And that probably was boosted a lot due to the Georgia and Arkansas games. 41st, and the Florida game. So that one too. 41st in passing offense, tied 39th in scoring offense, 18th overall recruiting class. I would like to see it in the top 15, but I'm not mad at top 20. I'm not. We'll jump in the schedule. First game of the year should be a banger. Drake May, Spencer Rattler. Again, North Carolina versus South Carolina. Give me South Carolina in Charlotte. It's a neutral site game. Furman, I should have as a W. Georgia, have us taking an L. Mississippi State, W. Tennessee, L. Even though we beat them last year, don't get me wrong. We did beat them last year, but I haven't beaten us in a revenge game. Florida, revenge game, W. Mizzou, W. Texas A&M. Now, granted, I know they don't have much offense in Texas A&M. The Texas A&M, besides last year, I think we beat them last year. They have our number. They want revenge. Jimbo Fisher will have them boys, I believe, ready. I think we'll be ready too, but I don't think we'll win the game. Jacksonville State, W. Vandy, W. I think we get the Kentucky game. That's a W. And then we lose to Clemson, going 8-4, 5-3 in conference play. Successful season to me, in my opinion. I get the Texas A&M game. So I'll do this. Texas A&M was really a toss-up for me. I gave them the loss because of the revenge factor. So I'll say I have us going 8-4, 9-3 question mark, and 6-2 conference play question mark. We go 9-3, 6-2. I'm happy, especially because then we could get that bowl game to go for the 10th win, having a 10-win season. I'm excited as a South Carolina fan if that happens. So we'll move on from South Carolina to Tennessee. Tennessee boasted a great offense last year, explosive offense last year. But a lot of that is gone at receiver. I had to say that because both of their back return. Tennessee, 10-2 last year, 6-2 conference play. Won the Orange Bowl versus Clemson. Joe Milton looked spectacular that game. Shout out to him at Tennessee because he didn't look spectacular at the school before. Lost Herndon Hooker to the NFL and to injury, which sucks. But much love to Herndon Hooker. This is one thing, though, with Herndon Hooker I didn't like as opposed to Stetson Bennett. They were the same age. Herndon Hooker was 25. Nobody got on Herndon Hooker for being the same age as Stetson Bennett and being so good in college football. That's one thing I did not like. If you're going to do it for Stetson Bennett, you have to do it for Herndon Hooker. Now, I think Herndon Hooker is talented. It took him a while to get here, but I do think he's talented. I just wanted it to be equal across the board. Tennessee also lost Jalen Hyatt to the NFL. Lost Cedric Tillman, who barely played last year. I think he might have only played like one game or something like that. Lost him to the NFL. Lost Darnell Wright, a tackle, to the NFL. Like I said, Joe Milton returns. Jabari Small returns. Huge for them. Jalen Wright returns. Huge for them. Rue McCoy returns. I think that's pretty good for them. Aaron Beasley returns. That's really big for him because he could have went to the draft. They returned 13 starters, 7 on offense, 6 on defense. First in scoring offense, 26 in rushing offense, 5th in passing offense, 91st in total defense, 127th in passing defense, tied 4th for first downs in the country. So as you can see, Tennessee's strength was offense, Herndon Hooker throwing the ball. Weakness, defense. As you can see, if you look at some of these scores of these Tennessee games, namely the Bama game, 49-52. Now they won it again. Controversy was there, but they did win it. Then you go into they had the 11th overall recruiting class, which is pretty good for Tennessee. They start off versus Virginia. I have as a W. Austin Peay State as a W. Florida, W. UTSA, W. Shout out Frank Harris. South Carolina, W. Texas A&M, W. Bama, L. Kentucky, W. UConn, W. Mizzou, W. Georgia, L. And to finish the season against Vandy as a W, making them 10-2, 6-2 in conference play. Another maybe New Year's Six Bowl for Tennessee. So we go from Tennessee to Texas A&M. Texas A&M 5-7, 2-6 in conference play. I believe Jimbo Fisher has been calling plays. He's giving that duty up to now newly hired Bobby Petrino as offensive coordinator. Lost Devon Arcane to the NFL. Max Johnson returns, he returns. Haynes King transfers to Georgia Tech. Tony Grimes transfers in, cornerback from UNC, which their secondary was getting burnt up. So hopefully Tony Grimes puts in the work, helps this Texas A&M defense because the UNC was barely any defense being played. Jalen Henderson transfers in, quarterback for Fresno State. Evan Stewart returns. Moose Muhammad returns. They return 15 starters. They return 15. And I forgot to write down the offensive and defensive starters. That's on me. They tied 92nd in first downs. Pretty terrible. 84th in passing offense. 101st in scoring offense. Bad offense at Texas A&M. Even with Jimbo Fisher, we have bad offense. 22nd in scoring defense. 52nd in total defense. So again, the strength of this team was defense by far. 10th overall recruiting class. So really good for Texas A&M. They were going to hop into the schedule where they start against New Mexico, W. The U in a rematch for the U, W. Even though it's in Miami, I have it as a W. UL Monroe, W. Auburn, W. Arkansas, L. Alabama, L. Tennessee, L. South Carolina, W question mark. Ole Miss, L. Mississippi State, W. Abilene Christian, W. And then at LSU to end the season, L. So I have them at 7-5, 3-5 with 6-6, 2-6 question mark. Now I know y'all gonna say, Carl, you're not high on the quarterbacks. They had terrible offense last year. Why do you have them taking a step forward and becoming bowl eligible? Again, as I said earlier, offensive coordinator is now Bobby Petrino. Bobby Petrino, I believe, was the head coach when Lamar Jackson was there at Louisville. Teddy Bridgewater was there at Louisville. I think he's going to help that offense. I think he's going to give that offense the battery it needs to get better. I understand Jimbo Fisher is an offensive mind himself, but now you have two offensive minds that can go into the lab and work out an offense for this Texas A&M team. Might get them to a bowl game. Now to end it, and before I end it, thank y'all for whoever's been rocking with me. We're 48, 49 minutes in. We're almost out of here. I hope y'all enjoyed the show so far. If you liked it, please leave a like. Please like the comments up. We're almost out of here. Vandy, 5-7 last year. 2-6 in conference play. Again, 2 not expected W's against Florida and Kentucky. Did not see those coming. I was scared for South Carolina when I seen them. They returned Will Shepherd, who I am really interested to see him play this year. I watched Will Shepherd against Northern Illinois, and I get it's Northern Illinois, but he was making plays. I can see the talent. I understand who he was going against, but I can see the talent. I'm interested to see Will Shepherd take another step. Ray Davis, again, transfers to Kentucky. A.J. Swan returns. Jaden McGowan returns. They lost Anthony Orji to the NFL. Mike Wright, again, transfers in from Mississippi State. So we'll see how that battle ends between Mike Wright and AJ Swan. AJ Swan, I believe, was quarterback last year. So if they can grow together and AJ Swan wins the battle, then good for Will Shepard and AJ Swan. Hopefully, I don't see it going too well though, but hopefully they can, grow together. They returned 13 starters, 6 on offense, 7 on defense, 123rd in total defense. Again, Vandy was bad. 125th scoring defense, 112th passing offense, 89th scoring offense, tied 115th for first downs. This is by far the worst team in the SEC. By far. But I don't think they'll be the worst team in the SEC this year. They have the 69th overall recruiting class, which is right up Vandy's alley. Schedule, first game of the season versus Hawaii. W. Alabama A&M. W. Wake Forest. No Sam Hartman. W. UNLV. W. Now, this is where it gets tricky. Kentucky, I have as an L. And the battle for last place versus Mizzou, I have Vandy taking that and then finish the season with 6 straight L's, losing to Florida, Georgia, Ole Miss, Auburn, South Carolina, and Tennessee, finishing 5-7, 1-7 in conference play. But they're not last, and that's a victory for Vandy in itself. So in review, I have Alabama and Georgia meeting in the SEC championship game, both being 12-0, 8-0 in conference play. Both have question marks at quarterback. Both have great head coaches. Both will have stout defenses. Give me Alabama. Bama's been here longer. I understand Georgia's been here too, but Georgia has arrived to winning natties. Bama's been here. Bama is angry. Bama's like, these boys not better than us. We're going to have to show them this year. They're not the kings of the SEC. We're the kings of the SEC. They had a great 2-year run. This is what Bama is thinking with Nick Saban. Give me Bama to go 13-0 and win the Big 12 SEC championship, excuse me. Now, I have an SEC player of the year written down, but that's because we're missing like 3-4 starting quarterbacks that's not announced yet. So I have Jace McClellan as a player of the year, but that's not set in stone. Like, that was just because I normally give a player of the year for each conference, so I had to give one for this one. It's only right. But that's for sure going to change once I figure out these starting quarterbacks and everything like that. So the standings I have for the SEC East: number 1, Georgia; 2, Tennessee; 3, South Carolina; 4, Florida; 5, Kentucky; 6, Vandy; and 7, Mizzou. Number 1 for the SEC West is 1, Alabama; 2, Ole Miss; 3, LSU; 4, Arkansas; 5, Texas A&M; 6, Auburn; and 7, Mississippi State. Joe, I seen your comment about, do I have Vandy worse than Wake Forest? Yes. Wake Forest is normally a powerhouse school in football, as you may or may not know. They're also in a weaker division in the ACC. So that being with the history of not being good, I think if we rate them together, I have Vandy slightly better. SEC gets better talent. They're last because they're in the SEC. They can go to I don't want to say they can go to an ACC and compete, no, but they wouldn't be as bad if they weren't like an ACC. So, yeah, I got Vandy slightly better than Wake Forest, but that's the show for today. First solo episode. I was excited to do this. Freestyled a couple things. I stayed on script with a couple things. But that's, like I said, that's going to be the show. I appreciate y'all for rocking with me. Thank y'all for letting me talk this college knowledge to y'all, and I hope to see y'all next time. Peace.
Thank you for staying to the end. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like this video, subscribe, and also hit that notification button so you can be notified next time we put out a video. If you're listening on any podcast platform, subscribe and hit that notification button, y'all, so you can be notified we put out another podcast audio. And last but not least, hit that share button. No matter what you're listening to or watching it, hit that share button and send it to somebody that you know that would love to watch this episode you just listened to. So once again, thank you for staying to the end, and we'll see y'all at the next episode.